welcome to the Interns Hour. For those of you listening who don't know who I am, which is probably most of you, I'm Samantha Rideout. I'm an English major here at Westfield State University, now comm minor. I officially declared that yesterday. As part of my journey to receiving my diploma here at Westfield, I have an internship here at the WSKB Community Radio, and as part of that as well, I get an hour slot for a show. I've decided to do more interview-style shows here. I've been working with Pete throughout my internship. He's been great at teaching me how to do this community radio stuff.
Teaching her talk radio.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is my first live show. I've pre-recorded, but this is my first live one, so I apologize in advance for any awkwardness or dead air if my brain's not working fast enough to get words out of my mouth. But hopefully it'll go well because I have a great guest here today. I have Professor Vanessa Diana here. She's an English professor here at the university. Hello, Professor Diana. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So before I let you talk about yourself, just a little introduction to Professor Diana. She is an English professor here at the university. I don't know if you know this, but you teach about almost 16 courses here, which is crazy. Like, that's a lot of courses. So some of those, I was a teacher. I had her, I think, 2 semesters ago. I had you in Intro to American Lit, and that's just one of the courses she teaches here. Some others include Ethnic and Gender Studies, Intro to American Women Gender Studies, correct? And then also Intro to American Lit, which I had her for Black American Literature, Contemporary Native American Literature. Those are just some of the courses she teaches. She's also the assistant director of the honors program here at the university, and she's very active in the Westfield community. Something we'll be talking about later is the Westfield 350th birthday celebration. I believe that is May 17th to 19th. I believe it's a weekend celebration. So
it's going to be busy, and they told me I can't leave the city limits.
Really?
Yes.
Are you working part of it? Are you going to be?
He's going to be in high demand.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they do a radio portion of the event? Is that
No,
why?
I'm covering it for the cable access. We're doing the parade on Sunday, and
the parade,
the fireworks on Saturday.
I saw there were fireworks. That's awesome.
This is going to be crazy.
So yeah, that'll be a busy weekend. We'll talk about that a little later. But now I'll let you talk, Professor Diana. So me being, this is just a personal question for me, but how long have you been working at Westfield State University to begin?
So I came here in 2000, and I am not going to do the math and ask how old you were in that year, because it'll really depress me at this early hour. So 19 years, it's gone by really fast. I can't believe it, but I feel blessed. It's been a great ride, and I appreciated your comment about the long list of classes that I've gotten to teach, because this is a point in folks' careers, where we can hit that midlife crisis of boredom, and I need something new. And I can say I've never been bored here. That's for sure.
No, I was like, this isn't just to kiss your butt or anything, but I was genuinely impressed at how many courses you have teach there, because they're all there's a variety of different courses as well. All have different aspects to them, but I was like, wow, she teaches a lot here. You also, and you do so much for the community as well. You're just a busy person, which is fantastic that you had time to come on to my show. But I also saw that you got your bachelor's, master's, and PhD. So where did you go for schooling for those?
So my bachelor's degree is from East Stroudsburg University, which is a comprehensive public university in the Pennsylvania state system. Okay. So basically, it's Westfield State in the Poconos of eastern Pennsylvania. I grew up in New Jersey, so it wasn't far from my home. It's about 5,000 undergrads. Started as a normal school, teacher training school. Sound familiar? So really, when this job came up, it was, I think it was part of what made me really excited about it. It was a small, affordable, public school, but with, classes that were small enough that my teachers knew my name. Yeah. So I got really great nurturing, mentoring, from the English department at that university way back in the dinosaur age. And it was those faculty who encouraged me to go on to grad school and to pursue, higher ed. And I'm really grateful for that. So it feels like a kind of, what goes around comes around. Yeah. Now being at a very, very similar institution and getting the chance to be on the other side of that relationship. So that's where I went as an undergrad. Then I got my master's at Lehigh University, which is also in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. It's known mostly as an engineering school, but that's a private university, bigger than here, maybe 11,000 I think they have. Okay. So that was an interesting contrast. Don't even ask what the tuition at that place must. It's probably like $65,000 a year by now. But anyway, going from a public institution for undergrad to this private school where I, by the way, did not have to pay because I was a TA, right? I was teaching English Comp 101 as I was doing my master's degree, and I was like 22 years old with 18-year-old students. So that was an interesting dynamic. But these were really, by and large, with a few exceptions, a very wealthy population of students. The student parking lot was, you don't even want, like fancy cars and all the rest. So that contrast, I didn't love it there in some ways. By contrast, it was a beautiful place with amazing resources, and I don't mean to diss a place that I'm grateful for a degree, but the contrast helped me also know that when I finally went on the job market, that I did want to work in a state school, and a place that's more accessible and affordable, and where folks don't take it for granted. I had a student in one of my English Comp classes at Lehigh say to me, "My dad's paying a lot of money for me to go here. I should get an A in this class."
I hate that.
And I definitely have never heard those words at Westfield State,
No, because students here are working for, some of them are paying in full for everything. Like, exactly. They're doing it all. So, wow, that.
So I never, ever have had that in my 19 years, that feeling of, from students sort of taking it for granted, or that sense of entitlement. So anyway, now I feel guilty because I'm dissing my a former school. I got I was really grateful and got a lot of great opportunities there. Anyway, then I took some time off and went to teach English in Japan.
Oh my God.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to talk more about that, I will
absolutely.
try to talk you into it. But
was that just going into it, just curiosity, was that like a culture shock going to Japan? Like, did you know Japanese going in, or it was just like,
I can't read it. I could order a beer in Japanese and ask where the train station is, and that's about the
How did you get around places? Did you just have maps and you just had to guess, or were people
there
friendly?
were no smartphones, there was no such thing as Google Translate. I didn't believe it or not, there wasn't even email yet. Pete can affirm that there was a time when I'd have to call home for $1 a minute. There was no Skype or anything. And email wasn't a thing. This was the early 90s. So
were the other students that
were
helping?
Well, it was to some of us serious geeks, but that's a different story.
The serious geeks may have known about,
it wasn't widely out there.
Right. Yeah. I did not have an email account until after my time in Japan. So, I would write snail mail letters to family and friends, and they'd send VHS tapes. Have you ever heard of those? We played them in this thing called a VCR of, it would have been Seinfeld, or I'm trying to think what we would have watched. Hill Street Blues. Anyway, these are some cultural references that you definitely...
The Rockford Files.
Exactly.
I go way back.
So it was very different. My daughter's studying abroad this semester, and we're texting on WhatsApp for free.
Exactly.
In real time, and she's on another continent. So
where is she studying abroad, not to get...
hers, this is a cool answer, actually. She's currently in Cape Town, South Africa.
I have a girl that I went to high school with. She's currently in South Africa as well.
Really?
I've seen pictures. It is so beautiful there. I don't think it's a real place. It is genuinely so beautiful. She posts pictures every day, and I'm just like, how?
It's such an adventure. Yeah, it's really... In fact, my... husband's a high school teacher, and this is his school break week, and she has a week break. So he's flown over and he's hanging out with her.
How lucky.
And I'm really jealous. So they'll be, and in real time, they can text me photos to make me jealous.
Exactly. They'll be like, "Oh, what we're doing." You'll be like,
Yeah. So it's a different time around communication. It's really amazing. So anyway, so the time in Japan was... yes, big culture shock. As you can tell, I physically stuck out like a sore thumb as a white girl from New Jersey. That was a really good learning experience for me. I hadn't had that. I grew up in a predominantly white community and had never really had that experience of being so highly visible. And, I taught little conversational English to everything from little 5-year-olds to adults. And the little 5-year-olds, would come up and touch my hair and giggle and tell me in Japanese, "Sensei ga sugoi okihana desu ne," which means teacher has a really big nose, doesn't she? And I would say, that's very bad. But, they were right compared to how, they looked. I looked like kind of a freak to them. So it was, that's uncomfortable, but it was a good learning experience to be on the receiving end of being, someone who's getting stared at for looking different. But people, it's a really gracious culture of hosting and hospitality. Yes. So folks spoiled me rotten and were really generous with their teaching about their culture. They're really proud of showing visitors around, So awesome. Anyway, it was an amazing, wonderful experience. I got to travel and see the world. And then I went back to, because this is a long-winded answer to your question about school. Then I went to Arizona State for my PhD, which is in Tempe, Arizona, an enormous state school. I think when I was there, it was around 50,000 on the campus.
Oh, wow.
And now it's up to like 80,000. But, they have branch campuses.
Yeah, it's almost like the UMass system.
Oh, yeah. Oof. Yeah, even bigger.
I can't imagine.
Because they don't have the private universities to the degree that we do here in the Northeast. It really is, really the state, the big public institutions, and then they have branch campuses and so forth. So with a very few exceptions, it's not like here where there's such a mix of public and private for higher ed. Anyway, it's really different out there. But anyway, that was a great experience. But it also let me see what, I was a TA in a lecture class for American Lit of like 250 students. And, I would teach English 101 and then never see my students again ever in, crossing paths on campus or anything, because it was just like an enormous city full of people. So I feel lucky that I got to experience all those different size and types of institutions before I went on the job market and had, not that, it's not like you have your pick of 50 different jobs. It's pretty, before you go getting a PhD in English, full disclosure, tough job market. But I feel very grateful that it has all worked out this way. I got lucky.
Just a personal note, freshman year, I went to URI, which is a bigger school, and I had this similar experience where I wouldn't know anyone. I'd go to class and it'd be a sea of new faces, new people, and you didn't make the connections with professors like we do here at Westfield State. I know everyone in my class, and I know my professors pretty well, so I think it's a big difference. But I also personally like the smaller and more state schools.
We should get you on stage. It's admission season with the big May 1st deadline looming.
Come here, don't waste your money at the big schools. Trust me. Yeah. So for schooling, when you decided what you wanted? Do we need a break or?
Quarter after. It's a good place to take a break.
Okay, then we'll take a break and I'll ask you the question after.
I'm playing a one-hit wonder from the 80s.
Good plan.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks for the 80s.
Thanks, Pete.
I got your picture of me and you. You wrote I love you, I wrote me too. I sit and stare at it, there's nothing else to do. Oh, it's in color, your hair is brown, your eyes are hazel, and soft as clouds. I often kiss you when there's no one else around. I got your picture, I'd like a million of you all around myself. I want a doctor to take a picture, so I can look at you from inside as well. You got me turning up and turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning right, I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. I got your picture, I'd like a million of them around myself. I want a doctor to take a picture, so I can look at you from inside as well. You got me turning up, I'm turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning right, I'm turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. No sex, no drugs, no wine, no women, no fun, no sin, no you, no wonder it's dark. Everyone around me is a total stranger. Everyone avoids me like a cyclone ranger. Everyone. That's why I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. Turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. Turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. Turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so.
Westfield State University is now enrolling for their College for Kids program that runs this summer from July 8th through August 2nd. Classes are available for 4 weeks for students ages 5 through 15 in topics such as digital media, science, magic, cooking, and art. To register online for the courses, visit our website at www.westfield.ma.edu/CFK.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Give a Hoot Day 2019. Fellow Westfield State students and alumni, please join us for this year's Give a Hoot Day on April 10th and 11th. The Give a Hoot event plans to focus 1,839 minutes of their efforts on encouraging donor participation in support of securing the best possible future for the university as well as its current students. This year, Give a Hoot Day is putting emphasis on increasing student participation with the event. For Give a Hoot Day, donation jars will be located in both Wilson Cafe and the Dining Commons, one for each class, as a fun way to raise money for the university. When placing a donation, students will have the chance to write down their name and graduation year. The class with the most students who participated will win a cash prize for their class council. Hashtag Give a Hoot Day will be held on April 10th and 11th this year at Westfield State University. We are encouraging all students to wear their Westfield State University gear on these days to help showcase their school pride and sense of community.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Wednesday mornings start off right from 6 to 8 a.m. with Tina Gorman and Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Intern's Hour. Again, I'm Samantha Rido. Sam Rido, that's fine. I'm here with Professor Diana and Pete. I know it's not like they're gonna see me and call me that, but
I think the better radio name is Sam Rido. I like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I started introducing myself as Samantha, which I never did before, just because my professors call me that. So I'm like, oh, Samantha. But all my friends call me Sam, and the only people that call me Samantha is my family.
The radio thing, you have to have a hook.
Sam Rido.
Sam Rido.
That's easier.
I told her she's got the coolest radio name ever. She doesn't have to change anything.
Radio name.
Right. Thank you.
Usually it's your first and your middle is your radio name.
Oh, really?
But when I worked for HYN, I couldn't be Peter Anthony because there was already a Rob Anthony in the market. So working for the competition, so they didn't want to.
They didn't want that.
So they used my regular name, which is okay, but it was
Yeah.
Pete Coles instead of Peter Coles.
It's got punch to it.
Yeah.
Oh, I always just assumed it was last names, but
No, it's always your first and middle on your broadcast name.
oh, well, mine be Sam Lynn, but that's not fun. I like Sam Rido.
That one works.
Anyways, I'm here with Professor Diana. So before we took a break, I was about to ask you a question, and then we got a break. But now I'm going to ask you that question again. So when you were deciding to go to school, this is, again, a personal one, because as I was telling you during the break, I switched my major. So, I thought my entire life I was going to be a teacher. I thought I was going to, from when I was a kid, I would, play school with my siblings. I'd be like, I am the teacher. I'd make attendance lists. So, ask me 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh, yep, my entire life I wanted to be a professor. But did you know what you wanted to do when you were going to school? Do you have that mindset, or did you have a change?
I thought I wanted to be a high school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I was an English secondary ed major as an undergrad.
Me
and that's
too.
what you started as,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And then now you've switched
I'm just
to
English
and
writing concentration,
and
comm minor,
Yeah.
yes.
That's great. So this internship is part of that required internship
Yes.
for your major. Yeah,
Mhm.
great.
It's been awesome.
And we have a lot of students who come here planning to be teachers. We're
Oh yeah,
really,
all my roommates are teachers. They're going to be either elementary or
yeah, it's a
something.
big part of our identity
Yes,
and our cohort here. And so the education majors are many. And I was thinking about when you asked the question, in our first 18 years on the planet, how do we get ideas about what job we want? Right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think a lot of it is exposure. So depending on what your family members do for work, you may know about whatever those kinds of jobs are. But one thing most of us know about, I guess unless we're homeschooled, is the teaching profession,
Yes.
because we've been in classrooms since pre-K or kindergarten. And often when I talk with students about, what made you choose this career path, it's that one teacher, right?
Yes.
I had this amazing history teacher in high school, and now I want to be, that person inspired me to do the same. So sometimes, though, it doesn't pan out when folks start doing some of the pre-practicum and they go into the classroom and they think, oh, this doesn't actually feel like the right professional fit for me. There's something about it, whether it's about that getting up in front of or the, many moving parts that you have to manage and multitask, whatever. I mean, we all have different aptitudes and kind of wiring that's going to make us more suited for some work than others anyway. So I loved English class in high school, loved reading since I was a little kid, total bookworm. It's still probably my favorite thing to do is just to read a book for fun,
Yes.
And I did have some of those really good English teachers and experiences in classes where I love just digging into whatever, novel we were reading and really picking it apart. So that's been something I love since I was very young. So I did English secondary ed as an undergrad at a school very much like this and did my student teaching and realized I think student teaching was very helpful. And then I worked as a substitute teacher for a semester.
I'm currently doing that.
So
when
I don't have
go
to
home.
tell you.
Oh my goodness.
Hardest buck
It's
you'll ever earn.
terrifying. It is. The kids are so mean sometimes.
There was actually
I'm trying to teach vocational stuff in the high school.
Oh, you're dealing with this age group.
Yes.
I refuse to go to the high school. They're like, oh, do you want to sub? I'm like, no, because they'll just yell at me. They're my size.
Oh, they don't yell at me. It's for me. It's the apathy. I'm like, I'm bringing a TV radio program in, and nobody's really interested. I'm like, really?
Yes,
this is so cool.
Yeah.
Very challenging, and
Yes, it is.
I remember a fire lighting incident when I was a substitute in a high school.
Oh my goodness!
It was lighting matches in the anyway. So I did pretty quickly realize that I didn't have the classroom management skills and wiring that I see so many teachers are great. They're just so good at it. And I was I think maybe it would be different now. I'm obviously a lot older, but that part was something I learned through student teaching. Yeah. And I also loved English class in college so much that I thought, I want to stay here. I don't want to leave. This is too much fun. So I think I was a more narrowly decided person than many who are trying to figure out, whether it's choosing a major or I'm getting close to graduation, what kind of, work do I hope to get? And do I go to grad school? And if so, for what? These are big, exciting questions. And I try to work on I have a lot of advisees, as you know, between English and the honors program. I talk with folks in all majors, not just in English, about the decision to change a major or add a minor or add a double major or what kind of internship should I pursue, And I guess what I really love about the undergrad years is the built-in exploration. So sometimes folks push back a little against the core and they're like, come on, I'm an English major. Why do I have to take a science class or whatever? But, there are also, at some colleges, they don't let you officially declare your major till sophomore spring.
Oh, wow.
Even if you think, no, I definitely want to do X, And the spirit behind that is, you are exploratory in the beginning. The general education core requirements are meant to expose you to these other fields that maybe if you're a traditional aged 18-year-old, you just haven't, if it's a subject that wasn't at your high school, and then, related work that ties into these fields of study. Again, how do we know about these things until we know?
Exactly.
So I think doing internships, multiple when possible, to just be parts of these different professional world is so hugely valuable, and it worked out great for me. But I've had lots of advisees who get to, like the student teaching semester and think, oh, whoops, I don't want to be a teacher. And it's okay, you don't have to, but when you can kind of find that out a little earlier, it does build in and more exploration,
Yeah. Like, I didn't know ever that I was going to have a or want to pursue a comm minor, but like after doing this internship and even freshman year, I took a few comm classes, and I found myself, I'm like, oh, I really like these classes. And like, I like public speaking, which not a lot of people say. Like, I don't get nervous. I mean, I do stumble upon my words and trip up, but like, I don't mind
tell her
talking
slow
to
down
people.
her talking a little bit.
Yeah.
She talks very fast.
That's what this practice is for.
But you wouldn't know that I liked it because I'm like talking so fast. But like when my friends are like, oh, I have like a presentation, I'm like, I literally do my presentations the night before because I have no problem like ad-libbing during the presentation or like talking. So that'll
take you far.
And I wouldn't have had that without exploring like the comms and whatever, and having this internship. But along with knowing that you wanted to be a professor, what made you decide to do the literature courses that you teach here? Because a lot of them are I don't know how to put it. They're culture based, I would say, I guess. And so what made you want to teach those type of courses here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yep. So when I was an English major, back to the dinosaur days, you hear talk, no doubt, in your American Lit classes about the canon and sort of like what gets put in those anthologies and what kinds of things are assigned. And I'm old enough that it was a very, very white canon, very, very male canon. And so, the kind of classics that I read from high school and undergrad were way less diverse than what you'd see in any typical survey, like American Lit, Norton or Heath anthology or whichever one, we had in class, I can't remember. So I was in school in this time where it was just like the field was changing, and it was very exciting because there was this feeling of, oh, how did I not get exposed to this before? I mean, I was an undergrad late in my undergrad, I think, before I read Frederick Douglass's slave narrative.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. I couldn't believe this story and what it told me about American history that I hadn't learned in high school. And he was just, I was floored.
It's not like they're hard reads either. Like a high schooler could absolutely read them.
And I think often much more engaging and relevant to the struggles we're continuing to face in 2019. So you're going to have student engagement, in and that all kinds of students see their life experience reflected or valued in the things that we read and the stories that we analyze. Yeah. So it really wasn't until my master's degree that I had the access and the freedom to explore beyond the more traditional canon. And I took a class as a master's student in Native American literature. And at the time, again, this was like so new, such a new change in terms of how American Lit was getting taught. Anyway, I just totally loved what I discovered there and got really curious about. So I ended up writing and I took other kinds of more, diverse literary, voices and got really excited about the ways that stories can become political tools in social reform and trying to work toward a more equitable, society. And so I love story. We all love stories, and seeing writers using their art to try to make social change, I thought was really inspiring and relevant and felt valuable. So I ended up writing a master's thesis in Native American Lit, and it shaped my, decision of what I wanted to specialize in. And that's what brought me out to Arizona State, where I went to go work with one of the leading, like a real leader in the field of Native American literature, who became, my advisor. So I, that's kind of how the PhD thing works, is that you have this area that you want to specialize in, so you go to work with someone who's got that specialization to mentor you.
Break. All right, Pete's signaling that we have another break, so we're going to do that, and we'll be back.
jumped on the fence and he yelled at the house, "Hey, what gives you the right to put up a fence to keep me out or to keep Mother Nature in? If God was here, he'd tell you to your face, man, you're some kind of sinner." Sign, sign, everywhere a sign, blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind. Do this, don't do that, can't you read the sign?
Now, hey, you mister, can't you read? You've got to have a certain time to get a seat.
You can't even watch, no, you can't eat.
You ain't supposed to be here.
Sign said you got to have a membership card to get inside. And the sign said, everybody welcome, come in, kneel down and pray. But then they passed around the plate at the end of it all. I didn't have a penny to pay. So I got me a pen and a paper, and I made up my own little sign. I said, thank you, Lord, for thinking about me. I'm alive and doing fine. Woo! Sign, sign, everywhere a sign. Blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind. Do this, don't do that, can't you read the sign? Sign, sign, everywhere a sign.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Give a Hoot Day 2019. Fellow Westfield State students and alumni, please join us for this year's Give a Hoot Day on April 10th and 11th. The Give a Hoot event plans to focus 1,839 minutes of their efforts on encouraging donor participation in support of securing the best possible future for the university as well as its current students. This year, Give a Hoot Day is putting emphasis on increasing student participation with the event. For Give a Hoot Day, donation jars will be located in both Wilson Cafe and the Dining Commons, one for each class, as a fun way to raise money for the university. When placing a donation, students will have the chance to write down their name and graduation year. The class with the most students who participated will win a cash prize for their class council. Hashtag Give a Hoot Day will be held on April 10th and 11th this year at Westfield State University. We are encouraging all students to wear their Westfield State University gear on these days to help showcase their school pride and sense of community.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Interns Hour. Again, I'm Sam Rideout, and I'm here with Professor Diana and Pete. Before the break, we were talking, Professor Diana, about the courses you teach here and how they're more, I would say, not culturally based, would you say? Or just like, they have a lot to do with culture and different cultures and different literature and cultures. Mm-hmm. And so this is, I told you before the show, I have like not a political question, but like it could be. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question would be, as a student, because you're a professor, so we have two different viewpoints. Let's say, like, since like 2016 or something, have you seen a shift in how students can talk about certain subjects in the classroom, especially with you teach like women and gender studies, Black American literature, Native American literature, and I know after a certain election, things have gotten in society a little more tense. So I wanted to know if the classroom has switched, or like conversations in the classes that you teach, if they've changed at all.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when I think back like a decade, because the literature that I bring into the classroom is often addressing issues of racism or, like gender inequality, these kind of topics. I can remember a time, a decade ago, where I would say students generally seem to respond with a kind of, isn't that old news? Like, aren't we good now? If it were like a feminist perspective, sort of, many female students would kind of say, yeah, but I'm not a feminist. I mean, I understand that was important back in the day.
Yeah.
And, similarly, I mean, this is a predominantly white institution where I think, for white students, talking about racism can be really uncomfortable. And then because we have few students of color, it puts, a kind of pressure or tension on students of color to, like, do I now have to be the spokesman for every person who looks like me on this planet? Seriously? Like, so I think there was a kind of avoidance and walking on eggshells feeling, say, a decade ago, but also a kind of, why does this matter now? Like a more kind of political, little apathy, or kind of like, this isn't so necessary. So now, clearly, right, we've got a lot of work to do as a country. We have, these, every day a new headline around othering people and policies that are really discriminatory and, I mean, white nationalists marching on Charlotte, Anyway, so I see a hunger among students to engage in issues that not very many years ago they seem to want to avoid. Now, that feeling of nervousness about the eggshell feeling of, oh, we're getting into a topic where I might offend my classmate if I say what I think about this. That's definitely there. But I think one of the values of literature is that it allows us an excuse, to talk about, like, using this story and getting into the imagined perspective from someone who's lived a different life, than I have. Right? That's what gift that literature gives us. So I am challenged by a story, written from the perspective of someone who with a really different experience to empathize. And if there's anything we need right now, it's empathy, right?
Oh, yes.
And so I think there's more of a feeling of urgency around the topics, but definitely there is still that eggshell, don't you? Do you see it from a student perspective? And, the day after Trump was elected, there were clearly, students who were crying and students who were cheering. And it was really, I remember that morning.
I vividly remember being on campus and having, like, it was wild.
See, that's the one that I don't understand, because I went to bed that night and saying, no matter who wins, I got to get up tomorrow morning. I got to do my job. I still have to pay my taxes. There's not going to be this radical change. Like, the sky is not going to fall. The sun will rise in the morning.
Well, I don't know how political we want to get, but I think the sky kind of is falling. But anyway, I
think from, like, at least a student perspective, being somewhere, like, very contained, like, we're also young, so a lot of us aren't as mature as others. So, like you said, Pete, like, you have stuff to do the next day. Like, most of us had class the next day.
My daily routine is not going to change.
But certain students decided, whether they were rioting, whether they were, like, cheering, like, it was just like, it wasn't a normal day. It was like a disruptive day. And I think that's based on maturity and, like, all the hoopla that was going on about it. But
and we've since had these really clear divisions, and we had all the racist hate speech incidents in last fall, and so awful. I think we are in this very divided time. time, and how that plays out on campuses, in communities, in families, around the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Yeah.
These are hard times. So I think the classroom space is a really valuable, place where the whole point is to exchange ideas and to learn the context, like what's the history behind this debate that's on the news this week?
Yeah.
And so that's not always a comfortable, for sure, feeling, because we've got, folks who disagree and maybe, either don't want to speak because they know they're going to offend, or they want to share with passion their feeling, and then, you get that debate thing. So it is a challenging sort of, as the moderator, what's the teacher's role?
Yes.
The question of how much, nationwide, there's this kind of debate around where some, conservative critics of higher ed are saying there's a squelching of free speech because, some speakers are not welcomed onto campus, or they're protested by students.
Oh, yeah.
If they, like an Ann Coulter or someone comes onto campus and then she gets protested. And so anyway, this is a big national debate that you're asking about. But what I am really struck by, and I also am very grateful for, is how engaged so many people in your generation are in these political debates. And so back to 10 years ago, honestly, there was a sense of apathy and kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to kind of live in my little bubble and do my thing. Yeah. Versus now students are fired up. Yeah. Your generation is leading the way. Pick your topic, and I'm talking about across the political spectrum. There's an engagement and a realization that my generation is really messing things up. So what that it's sort of like our future leaders are thinking, okay, we have other ideas about how this can go. Yeah. So to me, that is extremely inspiring, and it keeps me feeling hopeful, even if I don't personally feel good about where we are around whatever policy you want to talk about. I feel hopeful in what I see in terms of young people's engagement, voting, rates, wanting to know about kind of what do I need to know to understand this debate we're having about, immigration, about whatever the topic, is that's kind of in the headlines this week. So that's been a very noticeable shift. Working at the same place, I've so it's been students from Massachusetts. Like we haven't changed that much in terms of our demographic in 10 years. But that attitude of curiosity and engagement and being fired up about what you believe in, wherever you are on that spectrum. And we do have a real mix. Some schools I think have less of a range around like political, leanings than our campus. And so that makes for, that there will be folks on various, sort of across the spectrum in a debate in a class or whatever.
From a student's perspective, because I kind of have my idea of it, but from a professor, I think we kind of touched upon it, but like, would you argue that students are more hesitant to show their political, not political views, but to speak up in class and show their opinion on certain topics, or are they more open now, do you think? Or like, not open, but more, like you said, charged up to like want to give their opinions now, like to defend or whatever? If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm wording that correctly. If the question makes sense. I hear your question. I kind of feel like the answer is both. Yeah. How do you see it? Because, it was more like I just don't care that much was the feeling I used to get, say, a decade ago. And I'm totally generalizing.
No, there was a political malaise amongst that age group.
No, I would agree.
Not so engaged. And so now I think there's a range of some students are like, here I am, loud and proud. And if you don't like it, tough. And then others are more hesitant to offend and so choose their words carefully. It's a range. How do you experience it?
So like when I was forming the question, I first was like, no, I think everyone wants to share their opinion now. But then I was like, no, I'm tending to see more people censor themselves. Like I agree. I think that's a mix, because I think a lot of people that used to not speak up are now speaking up and defending things. At least that's personally what I'm seeing in my classes. And then some people who maybe speak too much or talk a lot are now like, okay, maybe I'll just nod my head and agree, but I won't exactly say what I believe or whatever. So I think it is definitely a mix, at least from the student's perspective. But more specifically, I think students who used to not speak up more, I think are now more inclined to speak up more. At least that's just what I've been noticing in my classrooms.
Do you think so I'm going to try to pick your brain for teaching tips, because,
Absolutely.
All of us who teach want to see students engage in a classroom discussion and not have that scenario where it's just like the two who speak and everyone else just sits there, And so if you think about classes where you have seen students appearing more comfortable to disagree with one another, to engage in hopefully respectful debate, but debate and disagree, what do you think think's behind that level of comfort or discomfort? Is it something that the teacher can influence? Is it a random, who happens to be in the class with you?
I think it's more that obviously the professor or the teacher has a huge role, the comfortability the students have with that person, whether they can feel comfortable talking about it, or whether the professor's pushing their views or not pushing their views, or a very neutral person, that has a huge fact on it. But also it's just the luck of the draw who's in your class, because depending on who's in your class, a student might not feel comfortable expressing their opinions if you have another student in the class who is going to comment on it, or is going to have a negative view and not be as respectful to sharing views, or will poo-poo your view and have that conflict. So usually it's the teacher does have a lot to do with it, but I think it's mainly students.
I think the professor also sets the boundaries too.
Yeah.
Saying, this will be tolerated.
Yes.
These are our ground rules.
Yeah, if you set ground rules and that would encourage more people. Yeah.
And that does help, but also if you have that one student who's I don't care, yes, there are ground rules, but I will either find a loophole or I will push as much as I can to those boundaries. Yes, you said I can't talk about this, or I can't interrupt, or I can't do that. They will still maybe do that, or just their presence maybe on campus or elsewhere. It affects the students that are also in the class, which is personally from a student's perspective, it usually is. Obviously the professor and teacher have a lot to do with it, but I think the majority of what has to do with it is who is in your class, the other students. And if everyone's respectful, and if somebody has a strong opinion and can say their opinion and also let other people say their opinions and be a nice person about it, then that obviously opens up the environment. But there's also some students who don't have that mindset or don't have that matureness about it, which is what affects it.
It's a good ongoing, national challenge. How do we speak across our disagreements respectfully?
Yeah, exactly.
We're not getting a lot of that modeled.
And there's a difference between understanding and just regurgitating a party line.
Yes, exactly.
How do you back up, your argument with evidence? And
exactly, because some students can't do that. They're well, I heard, and this is, and blah blah blah, and you're well, okay, if you heard that and you believe that, why?
Go do your fact checking.
Exactly, and if you can tell me why, and I still don't agree, I can just be all right, well, that's your opinion. You're you have the facts to back it up. I just personally don't believe that. And if the other person can be okay, and then you guys can go still have lunch together, then that's great. But you don't have to.
That's
hate,
the whole point.
You don't have to hate each other. You don't have to.
And I think it's probably one of the most important things that is happening in education across all levels, from here and younger too, is media literacy. Yes. Truth from the fake news stuff. In this time when it's sort of folks just say whatever and it becomes this echo chamber on social media. How do we practice the kind of homework you have to do to fact check and really make sure?
And sometimes even the fact checking sites aren't fact checked. You just sit there and go, you know what? I choose to believe that you listen to both sides, and somewhere in the middle is the truth.
Or you can even try and see the other side. Some people don't even try. They'll just be well, this is what it is, and then you'll give them a counter thing, and they're no. And you're what do you mean no? I just presented you the other side. You're not listening. So it's also part of just listening to the other side and being all right, well, I hear you. I guess it makes sense. Still don't agree with it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Other than your literature courses, you also have the civic engagement courses. So I was curious about what those are, because I looked up civic engagement, the definition of it. I kind of understand it, but I was hoping that you could enlighten me.
I'm glad to hear you were doing your homework. Good preparation. Way to go. A+ for this assignment.
Thank you.
Well, I'll use the example of Westfield's 350th birthday and a class that I have this semester, which is an interdisciplinary seminar. All different majors are in it, and it's called Westfield at 350. And so, civic engagement classes mean that there's some sort of a community engaged research or service or sort of a town gown link built into the learning and the curriculum. So in this case, it's almost like Westfield becomes our text, the city.
Okay.
And so the way that the class is structured is it's a night class, and we've been attending this series of lectures, some hosted here on campus, some hosted downtown, that have been part of the Westfield 350th historical lecture series. And some of them have been given by professors or retired professors from Westfield State and from local historians. Anyway, so the students are learning about the history of this place from all different perspectives, from geology to Native American history to there's one next week on planning and geography, the GPS, Geography, Planning and Sustainability Department faculty, Professors Bristow and Niag are giving a talk about transportation and, public transport. And anyway, so the idea is that we can learn about the place where we are, and that the learning we do also has a reciprocal benefit back to the community. So in some cases, that means maybe like a service or volunteering project. In this case, students are creating presentations for KERCA, the celebration of undergrad
I'll be there
research. Yeah, we'll see you there.
I'm there. I've been there for the past 2 years.
It's a great tradition.
I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's a fun event.
And one of the goals of this year is to get community members to come to see students present research and creative work.
Read my poems.
They can hear your poetry reading, and so one of the really good benefits of this semester has been we've gotten a lot of members of the community onto campus, many for the first time, because this lecture series has become really popular. And so anyway, so my students will be there with you at KERCA, and they are presenting on sort of celebrating the Westfield and Westfield State. Okay. So they're looking at topics like internships that are, in the city of Westfield, and service projects that student clubs or majors or classes are doing, and ways in which, student teachers go out and teach the children of Westfield. And so they're, and health, sort of a healthy Westfield is one of their topics, and looking at nursing and EMT and, the kind of services that folks who are going into medical kind of fields offer. So it's a kind of highlighting of the positive relationship between the city and the university, and ways in which the students here contribute to and enhance the city of Westfield, right? And so I think that's kind of a good positive pushback on the, maybe negative image sometimes that students get of just, having loud parties downtown or something, right? That there's a lot more going on. And you're a great example of that, working with community radio, and WSKB is a great example of that partnership, and, the way that it's a student and community, collaboration, that WSKB community radio, functions in that way. It's a professional development opportunity for students. Yes. It's a way that we're using this facility and the Westfield Technical Academy, toward benefiting the students as well as the community.
Yeah. Is that a minute until we're done? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, look at the time.
Right? I have a bunch more questions, but, obviously the hour's up.
Kate likes her hour, right after you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kate Phelan's in next.
Oh, Kate's next. Yeah. Very good, yeah.
So I guess I'll wrap it up, but I thank you so much for coming on, Professor Diana. You were probably... I couldn't have picked a better guest. Thank you so much. This is my first, obviously, live recording, and it probably couldn't have gone any better. And obviously, I'm going to talk to you more about studying abroad, because I thought that you going to Japan was very interesting. Pete, thank you for being here and running the show, basically. And thank you guys for listening to the Interns Hour. I'm Sam Rideout. Thank you.